The guards laughed as they dragged the creature down the cold metal hallway. Her silver skin gleamed under the harsh lights. Her eyes were pure black, no white at all. She fought against the chains, making sounds that hurt human ears. Blood dripped from her mouth where they had hit her. "This one killed 15 soldiers," Guard Jackson said, pushing her forward. "Tore them apart with bare hands." The other guards stepped back. They had all heard the stories. The Krell were monsters. Fast, strong, and hungry for human flesh. Or so everyone believed. The war had started 6 months ago. Nobody knew why. The Krell ships appeared in Earth's orbit one morning. No warning, no message. Just death from the sky. Cities burned. Millions died in the first week. Humanity fought back with everything they had. Nuclear weapons barely scratched their ships. Bullets bounced off their skin. But humans learned. They discovered that electricity worked. High voltage could stun them long enough to capture them. The military built special prisons deep underground. They called it Project Cage. The idea was simple. Study the enemy. Learn their weaknesses. Win the war. This female was the first one they caught alive. She was different from the others. Smaller, younger maybe, but just as deadly. She had killed an entire patrol unit before they finally brought her down with shock weapons. Captain Morris stood outside Cell Block 7. He was tired. The war had taken everything from him. His wife died in the New York attack. His daughter was missing, probably dead. He had nothing left except hate. "Put her in with the human," he said coldly. The guards stopped. They looked at each other. "Sir, that's against protocol," Jackson said. "The prisoners are supposed to be isolated." "I don't care about protocol," Morris replied. "I want to see what happens. These things killed my family. They deserve worse than a clean cell." The guards nodded slowly. They understood. Everyone had lost someone. They opened the heavy door. Inside, a man sat against the wall. His name was David Chen. He was 32 years old. Once he was a teacher. Now he was a prisoner. They said he helped the Krell. They said he gave them information about human defenses. It was a lie, but nobody cared. The world needed someone to blame. David looked up as they threw the alien inside. His eyes went wide. He pressed himself against the wall. "No, please," he whispered. "Don't do this." The guards smiled. They locked the door and walked away. Their laughter echoed down the hallway. The alien girl landed hard on the concrete floor. Her chains rattled. She slowly lifted her head. Those black eyes fixed on David. She made a low growling sound deep in her throat. David couldn't move. He had seen videos of what Krell did to humans. Ripping, tearing, eating. His hands shook. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. The alien stood up. She was tall, maybe 6 feet. Her body was covered in strange silver patterns that moved like living tattoos. Her fingers ended in sharp black claws. She took one step toward him. David closed his eyes. He waited for death. But it didn't come. He heard a different sound, not growling. Something else, like crying. He opened his eyes slowly. The alien girl had collapsed. She was shaking. Her hands covered her face. Dark blue liquid ran down her cheeks. Tears. She was crying. David stared. This didn't make sense. Monsters didn't cry. Killers didn't show fear. But she was terrified. He could see it in every movement. Hours passed. Neither of them moved. The alien stayed in her corner. David stayed in his. The cell was silent, except for her quiet sobs. Finally, David spoke. His voice was soft. "Are you hurt?" The alien's head snapped up. She looked at him with those impossible black eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she made a sound, not words. Just a sad, broken noise. David saw the wounds on her body. Burns from the shock weapons. Cuts from the chains. Fresh blood mixed with old. They had tortured her before bringing her here. Something changed inside him. Maybe it was because he had nothing left to lose. Maybe it was because he saw his own pain reflected in her eyes. Maybe he was just tired of all the hate. He slowly reached into his pocket. The guards had missed something during their search. A small piece of bread from his last meal. He held it out toward her. "Here," he said gently. "You must be hungry." The alien stared at the bread, then at him. Her whole body tensed like she might attack, but she didn't. Instead, she began to crawl forward, slowly, carefully, like a wounded animal approaching something it didn't understand. Outside the cell, cameras recorded everything. Captain Morris watched the screens. He smiled. This would be entertaining. He gave them 3 hours before the alien killed the human. Maybe less, but something was happening that nobody expected. Something that would change everything. The alien girl stopped 3 feet away from David. Her black eyes studied the bread in his hand. Then she looked at his face. She was trying to understand. Was this a trick? Humans had only given her pain. Why would this one offer food? David kept his hand steady. His fear was still there, but something stronger pushed it down. Compassion. He had seen too much cruelty. He wouldn't add to it. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." She moved closer. Her movements were strange. Not like an animal. More like someone who had forgotten how to trust. Her hand reached out slowly. The claws came within inches of his skin. He didn't pull away. She took the bread. For a moment, their fingers almost touched. Then she jerked back to her corner. She sniffed the bread carefully. Finally, she ate it. Small bites. Like she hadn't eaten in days. David watched her. Up close, he could see she was young. Maybe barely an adult by her species standards. Her silver skin was covered in scars. Old ones and new ones. She had been fighting for a long time. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She looked at him. Made a sound. It was musical, like wind chimes. "But sad. I'll call you Silver," David said. "If that's okay." She tilted her head. Then something amazing happened. She made the sound again. But this time, she pointed at herself. She was trying to communicate. Hours turned into days. The guards came twice a day with food. They always laughed when they opened the door. They expected to find David's body torn apart. Instead, they found them sitting on opposite sides of the cell. Alive, quiet. Captain Morris grew angry. This wasn't what he wanted. He wanted violence. He wanted proof that all Krell were monsters. But the cameras showed something different. On the 3rd day, David got sick. The cell was cold. He had no blanket. Fever burned through his body. He shivered against the wall, unable to stop. Silver watched him for a long time. Then she did something unexpected. She moved to his side of the cell. She sat next to him, close enough that he could feel warmth from her body. It radiated like a heater. David was too weak to be afraid. He leaned against her without thinking. The warmth felt good. She didn't move away. Instead, she wrapped one arm around him, carefully, like she was afraid her claws might cut him. They stayed like that through the night. The cameras recorded everything. The guards whispered among themselves. This wasn't normal. This wasn't possible. By morning, David's fever had broken. He woke up with his head resting against Silver's shoulder. She was humming. That same musical sound. But now it sounded like a lullaby. He sat up slowly. "Thank you," he said. She looked at him. Then she did something that made his heart stop. She smiled. It wasn't a human smile. Her mouth was different. But the meaning was clear. She understood kindness. She understood gratitude. Over the next week, they learned to communicate. David would point at things and say words. Silver would repeat the sounds. Her voice was strange, like speaking through water. But she was trying, learning. "David," he said, pointing at himself. "David," she repeated slowly. "Yes." He smiled. "And you are Silver." "Silver," she said. Then she made her own musical sound. Her real name. He tried to copy it but failed. She made that smile again. It was okay. She started drawing on the floor with her claw. Pictures, simple ones at first. Then more complex. She drew her world. A planet with 3 moons. Beautiful cities made of crystal. Fields of strange plants. A family. Mother, father, and a small child. The child looked like Silver. David understood. She had a family once. They were gone now. Lost in the war. "I'm sorry," he said softly. She touched his hand. Just for a second. It was forgiveness. Or maybe shared pain. They had both lost everything, but the guards saw something different. They saw an alien touching the human. They saw cooperation where there should be hate. Captain Morris made a decision. On the 10th day, he came to the cell himself. 5 armed soldiers stood behind him. They opened the door with weapons raised. "Step away from the prisoner," Morris ordered David. David stood up slowly. He moved in front of Silver. "Protecting her." "She hasn't hurt me," David said. "She's not what you think." "She's a Krell," Morris said coldly. "She's killed our people. And you're a traitor." "I never betrayed anyone," David replied. "And she's not a killer. Look at her. Really look." Silver stood behind David. She was shaking. Not from anger. From fear. She knew what was coming. She had seen humans like Morris before. The ones who only understood violence. Morris raised his weapon. "Get out of the way, Chun, or I'll shoot through you." David didn't move. No, the soldiers shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't what they expected. One of them, a young private, lowered his gun slightly. "Sir, maybe we should silence." Morris shouted. His finger moved to the trigger. Silver suddenly pushed past David. She moved faster than human eyes could follow. But she didn't attack. Instead, she dropped to her knees in front of Morris. She bowed her head low, submitting, surrendering. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She began to cry. Those blue tears fell onto the concrete. She made sounds. Words in her own language, begging, pleading. David knelt beside her. He put his hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he whispered. Morris stared at them. His weapon shook in his hands. Everything he believed was crumbling. These weren't monsters. This was a terrified girl and a kind man. His hate suddenly felt hollow. He lowered his gun slowly. "Get them out of my sight," he said quietly. He turned and walked away. His soldiers followed, confused and silent. The door locked again. David and Silver sat together on the cold floor. She was still shaking. He held her hand, careful of her claws. "We're alive," he said. "That's something." She looked at him, made her musical sound. Then she leaned her head against his shoulder. Trust, complete trust. Neither of them knew that everything was about to change. The cameras had sent footage to military headquarters. Generals were watching. Scientists were analyzing. Questions were being asked. If one Krell could show mercy, could others? If one human could show compassion, what did that mean for the war? Tomorrow would bring answers. And those answers would shake the foundations of everything both species believed. The next morning started differently. No guards came with food. No laughter echoed in the hallway. Just silence. David and Silver sat together, waiting. Something was wrong. Hours passed. Then the door opened. But it wasn't Captain Morris. It was a woman in a white coat. Behind her stood soldiers, but their weapons were lowered. She carried a tablet computer and a medical bag. "My name is Dr. Sarah Williams," she said calmly. "I'm here to examine both of you. No one will hurt you." Silver moved behind David, her claws extended. She had learned that white coats meant pain, experiments, torture. "It's okay," David said to her. He looked at the doctor. "She's been hurt by your people. She's scared." Dr. Williams nodded slowly. She sat down on the floor, making herself smaller, less threatening. "I know," she said. "I've seen the footage. What they did to her was wrong. I want to help." "Why?" David asked. "Why now?" The doctor looked at her tablet. She turned it around so they could see. On the screen was a video. It showed their cell. It showed Silver saving David from the fever. It showed them sitting together, communicating, learning. "This footage was sent to every military base on Earth," Dr. Williams said quietly. "It's also been broadcast to the Krell fleet in orbit. Everything has changed." David's eyes went wide. "What do you mean?" The doctor took a deep breath. "The Krell have been trying to communicate since the beginning. We thought their signals were weapons. We thought they were attacking. But they were asking for help. Their planet is dying. They came here looking for sanctuary, not war." Silver made a sound. "A question." Dr. Williams pulled up another image. It showed Krell ships. But they weren't warships. They were colony ships, filled with families, children, refugees. "We started the war," the doctor continued. "We fired first. We killed their people. They fought back to protect themselves." David felt sick. All the death, all the destruction. It was based on a mistake, a terrible misunderstanding. "The Krell leaders saw your footage," Dr. Williams said. "They saw one of their own being treated with kindness by a human. They want to talk. Real negotiations. They're asking specifically for you two to be part of it." Silver moved forward slowly. She looked at the images on the tablet. Her hands touched the screen, showing her people. Her eyes filled with those blue tears again. But this time they were different. Hope. She was seeing hope. Over the next 3 days, everything moved quickly. David and Silver were moved to a different facility. Clean rooms. Comfortable beds. Real food. Doctors treated Silver's wounds. They apologized for the pain their people had caused. Captain Morris was arrested. So were the guards who had tortured Silver. Justice was finally happening. On the 4th day, the meeting took place. A large room with huge windows showing the sky. Krell ships floated in orbit above. Human leaders sat on one side of a long table. Krell leaders appeared on holographic screens. They couldn't breathe Earth's atmosphere, so they stayed on their ships. David and Silver sat in the middle. Together, a Krell leader spoke. Her voice came through translators now. Technology that should have been used from the beginning. "We came in peace," she said. "Our world was destroyed by a dying star. We searched the galaxy for a new home. Earth was big enough for both our peoples. We tried to ask permission to land. But your weapons answered instead." A human general stood up. His face was heavy with guilt. "We didn't understand. We thought you were invaders. We were wrong. Terribly wrong." Another Krell appeared on screen, older, covered in scars. "A warrior. You killed thousands of our people. Our children. Our elders. How can we forgive this?" The room went silent. It was a fair question. How could anyone forgive such horror? Then Silver stood up. She spoke in her own language. The translators worked now, turning her musical sounds into words everyone could understand. "I was captured by humans," she said. "They hurt me. They tortured me. They threw me into a cell to die. I hated them. I wanted them all dead. She looked at David. Her black eyes were gentle. But one human showed me kindness. One human saw me as a person, not a monster. One human risked his life to protect me. If one human can be good, then maybe both our peoples can learn to be good together. David stood beside her. I lost my family in this war. I have every reason to hate the Krell. But Silver taught me something important. Hate only creates more hate. Pain only creates more pain. Someone has to choose differently. Someone has to choose peace. He reached out his hand. Silver placed her clawed hand in his. Human and Krell, standing together. We can't change what happened, David said. But we can choose what happens next. We can share this planet. We can build something new, together. The Krell leaders talked among themselves in their musical language. The human leaders whispered nervously. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, the oldest Krell spoke. We accept. But there must be conditions. Justice for those who died. Land for our people. True equality. The human president nodded. Agreed, we will write a treaty. A real one. Fair for both sides. It wasn't perfect. It would take years to heal the wounds. Some humans would never accept the Krell. Some Krell would never forgive the humans. But it was a start. 6 months later, the first Krell colony was built in the Australian outback. Crystal structures rose from the red earth, beautiful and strange. Human and Krell children played together in special schools. Scientists from both species worked side by side. David became an ambassador. He helped translate not just words, but understanding between the two peoples. Silver worked beside him. She had learned to speak English fluently now. She taught humans about Krell culture, art, and music. One evening, they stood on a hill overlooking the colony. The sun was setting. Silver's people found Earth sunsets beautiful. They reminded them of their lost home. Do you ever regret it? David asked. Trusting me that day in the cell? Silver made her sound. The one that meant happiness. No, you gave me hope when I had none. You saw me when others only saw a monster. You did the same for me, David said. I was ready to die. You reminded me that life was worth living. She leaned her head against his shoulder. That gesture of trust they had shared in the cold cell. But now it meant something more. Friendship, family, love of a kind that crossed species and stars. Below them, human and Krell families walked together through the colony streets. Children of both species laughed and played. The war was becoming history. A terrible mistake that would never be forgotten, but also never be repeated. We did this, Silver said softly. We changed the world. No, David replied with a smile. We just chose kindness when everyone else chose hate. The world changed itself. Above them, Krell ships and human vessels flew side by side, protecting Earth together. Not as enemies, not even as allies. As one people sharing one home, the guards had thrown Silver into that cell as entertainment. They expected death. Instead, they got peace. They expected hate. Instead, they got hope that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything. One piece of bread. One moment of compassion. One choice to see a person instead of an enemy. That was how the war ended. Not with weapons. Not with treaties written by politicians. But with a teacher and an alien girl sitting together in a dark cell, choosing to be human in the truest sense of the word, choosing to care.